back to my YouTube channel. My name is MrskayMbobvu, aka the MrskayMbobvu. And thank you for everybody who's been subscribing, liking, and sharing, and being here week in and week out. So we are going to continue with our series. Like I said, that I'm going to be sharing the things that I've learned after resigning from my 8-year job. If you didn't watch the first video, can you please go back and watch the first video? I'm gonna link it here or here. Then just go and have a look, and then you will understand where this whole series is coming from. So just to recap, like I shared that I did resign from my 8-year job last year on the 30th of August. So this is my first month of my second year of resigning. So I just want to share an important thing that I've learned. Resigning from my job gave me back my self-worth. Let me break it down. How did that happen? So after resigning, definitely the first few weeks, I don't want to lie to you guys, the first few weeks, they were so hard. I felt like I don't know myself. I felt like I don't identify with this person who just wakes up and do nothing. Because ever since I was young, since ever started school, I've never rested. I went from my grade 1, my primary, my secondary, then varsity, straight from varsity, then I started working. So I don't know anything about just waking up and not going to work or to school. So to me, I felt like, oh my goodness, no, I can't identify with this person, you know. First few weeks, I was starting to miss my job. I'm like, I know it was very hectic. I know sometimes it was toxic, but I'd rather have what I know than this new thing that I do not identify. Just like the Egyptians, if you remember the story whereby they were taken to a promised land and they felt like, no, we want to go back, even if we were treated as slaves, but it's better we knew that slavery back there than this new thing that we're supposed to go into. So that was the case with me. So I was like, okay, because I'm that person, as much as I go into my feelings and I do allow to feel my feelings, but I don't stay in my feelings for long. So I think after a month or two, no, a month, 4 weeks, I was like, okay, unfortunately, baby girl, I was talking to myself, this is the new reality. You chose to resign and you need to now start to adapt. I was like, okay, there's no problem. So number one, I used to struggle with people asking me, what do you do for a living? You know, and I'll just go like, I'm a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home wife. And they'll give me that look. And the people that know that I went to school will give me that look to say, you went to school just to be a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom. And then I'm like, what's wrong with that? You know, what's wrong with that? So I really struggled with telling people that I don't do anything, I don't work anymore, I stay at home. And then God was like to me, do you want to cry over what has happened, a lost season, and rob yourself from learning what you need to learn in this season? And I was like, okay, God, what do you want to teach me? I started reading the Bible like always, and I prayed about it. I was like, God, give me the strength, give me, the strength to maneuver into this new life that I'm not used to. So God, teach me everything that you need to teach me in this season. So I started writing everything down. I started writing how I felt. The most important thing that I discovered was that I had an ego. I used to feel like I am something because I have my job. And by then, when I left, I was in a supervisor role. And it gave me a big ego to say I have people that are under me. At my age, not a lot of people can be supervisors, So to me, it was that thing of God making me to realize that you're not humble. You have an ego. You are prideful, and you put pride and value in your job. Now, because that value, that pride is no longer there, that's why you're feeling so empty. And then I started seeing those things, and I didn't even realize. And God was like, no, you always have that thing of No, I finished my diploma. But then it was a diploma. I finished my diploma record time, no sub, everything, and I got a job immediately, and I grew in my job. So you always had that thing as a cover up, and you didn't realize that you have ego. That was a very hard discovery. I didn't really want to accept it, but when I saw everything, I started thinking about my life. I was like, yes, that's true. I used to put my job like as my worth, and now because that job is no longer there, I felt, oh my goodness, I'm worthless. That's why I was not even confident enough to tell people that, or somebody randomly will ask me, what do you do for a living? I will sometimes I'll go like, no, I'm busy studying. Yes, I was studying, but I didn't really want to share that I'm studying. I wanted to say I'm a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, because honestly, when I was still working, I used to admire that a lot. I used to love it to say one day I just wish I could just stay home and be a stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mom. So basically, God answered that prayer, but I didn't own it up because it did not come with people validating me and people celebrating me. So that was one of the things that I discovered, that girl had ego. Girl thought because she's working, she's all that in a bag of chips. So I had to allow that to be stripped away, allow, now, not even allow, the job was stripped away. It was no longer there. So I had to now start realizing that I am worth it, even if I do not have the job. That is the thing that led to that video that I once did about you are enough. Because I felt like I'm not enough, I'm useless, and I felt like all I do is just wake up, clean, and just sit and relax. But those are the things that I really wished and prayed for when I was still waking, to say, I just wish one day I would just wake up and do nothing and just relax, or have self-care days, or put my mental health first, not prioritize anything, just sit and relax and rest. But now when I have it, I was like, God, no, this is not it. Because of what? Because I felt empty because my job was no longer there. This thing that I've covered myself with, this thing that I've put my worth in, this thing that made me feel like I'm valuable, I'm useful, I'm worth it. It's no longer there. So went on a journey of discovering my self-worth. So that was a very beautiful journey. Right now, I don't care. Sorry, I don't love using I don't care. I feel like it's too harsh. But I don't really mind if somebody tells me that, okay, you're sitting at home, you're not doing anything, your husband is taking care of you. I'm like, okay, so what? Start embracing my journey. I would wake up with so much positivity. I will just rest and allow myself to rest without labeling myself certain things like you lazy or this or that. And with my journey, it was so different because my husband all along, he is working from home. So I see my husband we made this room that we're currently in. This is our office. So during the day is my husband's office, and when I need to record, it's my office. So he will come here and work all day, and he will still do the things that he used to do when I was working, and that will make me feel like I'm worthless, because he will still help around the house like I'm still working. So to me, I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm sure my husband thinks I'm lazy. I'm just this lazy person, just sit and everything. And because I was condemning myself so much, I also thought he's also thinking about such things. And honestly, he didn't. He didn't even, sometimes did I even forget that you do not work. So that was the journey for me about self-worth. I realized that I didn't really think I was valuable. I didn't really think I was enough. I didn't really think that I was worth it because I don't work anymore all my life. And again, from where I'm from and what I've been taught, it's few people that will talk about being stay-at-home moms, and it's a lot of job. It's a lot of job as well, because in the house there's always something to do. But a lot of people do not talk about that. So we always think when you are one, you are worthless. And it does not mean that you're worthless. It does not mean that you do not have value. It does not mean that you're not enough. Because I do aspire to be a housewife or a stay at home a mom, or whatever you call it, a homemaker in the next 5 or 10 years of my life, by having some business that I will run, or having my this YouTube, guys, is also a way, it's also a job on its own, because recording, editing, it's also a job. But I do like putting my family and putting my home first before I can put any job or anything. So that made me realize that okay, I really love being at home. I really love being a homemaker. I really love having to cook for my family, being there when not miss anything that my daughter is doing at school, and just being available for my family. And I realized that maybe in me, or not maybe, I started realizing that in me, I actually have some sort of a calling to be a homemaker, which I didn't even realize. And because it's not something that it's uploaded, or sorry, something that a lot of people praise, it didn't help with increasing my ego. So I don't really value it, because if I look back, to be honest, even when I was still at varsity, a lot of people that I will follow, though they were American, a lot of people that I will follow, all of them coincidentally, they were all who stay-at-home wives, or stay-at-home moms, or homemakers, who had their own businesses, online businesses, whatever that they will be doing, but they will be stay-at-home moms. I didn't know why I was attracted to their content, or I felt like I wanted to watch their content. But now I realize that maybe, guys, the things that we watch are the things that in our hearts, or the things that we follow is the things that in our hearts we are really drawn to them, because they speak to us in a certain way. So I also realized that, and I started owning it. I'm not afraid to speak about it. If it was back then, even this video was not gonna be up, because me, a whole graduate, a whole top student, now I'm saying that being a homemaker or being a stay-at-home wife is something that I aspire. A lot of people will be like, are you crazy? A lot of people that know me back then will be like, are you crazy? But now, because I don't allow anything external to give me value, I'm even free to share my story. So even when I walk, I don't, if somebody asks me, it's like, hey, what do you do for a living? I will tell them, I'm a housewife, or I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't even use the student, because yes, I was studying, and yes, the girl got her second qualification, and I will never stop studying. I love studying. I love being an academic, and I just love learning. And coming to my second thing that I also learned. My second thing is that I learned that I've been using my education as a form of giving myself value. So I used to give myself value because I went to varsity and I passed, and now I would use my education as like something that I wear, a badge of like value or worth. So I started not identifying myself because I went to school, and I started actually using my education to do everything that I do. I still use my education to do the YouTube that I do. Just because I am not working a 9 to 5 does not disqualify the fact that I'm using my education in everything that I'm doing. So that's one thing that's one of the things that I also realized, to say all along I've been boxing my qualification, to a certain thing, because that thing helped me with my ego, and I didn't get out of the box because I was afraid of what people will say. And then after realizing that I am worth it, I'm valuable, and I am still somebody, even if I don't have a job, that made me to move out of that box that I was boxing my qualification in, and I started saying, a lot of things. When I started my decor business, I'm like, sales, you've been doing that in your job, so you know how to sell, customer service, you know how to research. So basically I was using my experience and my education, and now in my business, I run my own business, my own bank accounts, I run them, my own business bank accounts, I run my own business books, I approach people, I now do marketing. So that made me realize that all along I've been boxing myself, and when you put yourself in a box, you don't allow your mind to think out of the box. So that's one thing that I've realized. I'm like, God, thank you. All along I've been boxing myself, not realizing that education is a tool for me to use wherever I am. So that was a game changer, and I love the fact that I didn't just realize that alone. I started seeing a career coach, and I thought that person was just gonna focus on career, but she was actually focusing even on my personality, focusing on how I grew up and everything. And she was like, guys, education is just a tool that you use to do what you need to do that needs education. But a lot of us, we take education, we put it as a definition of our value, as a definition of our worth. That's why sometimes we'll even utter words like, me, a whole graduate, I cannot do that. Me, a whole person who graduated from varsity, I cannot do that. In this sort of qualification, I cannot do that. Because we think education is our value. And when that education starts not doing what we're told it's gonna do, the normal thing that says it's gonna give us a job of 9 to 5. Let's be honest, that's what we are told. We then start resenting that qualification, and it means that we start also resenting ourselves, thinking that I am not valuable. Here I am, I have this qualification, but I don't have a job. So I started using my qualification in everything that I do, in my business, in my YouTube. I even opened a TikTok account, which is Finance with K. I studied finance. So I talk about the things that I know, the things that I've studied, and I'm helping other people that didn't study finance. So that to me was a really game changer, to say immediately when you start realizing your worth and you don't allow anything external to define you, you are going to reach your greatest potential. You are going to reach your greatest heights because you're no longer in a box. You're no longer afraid of what people will say. You're no longer afraid to go places as yourself. That's where I learned a lot about myself. That's where I learned a lot about my self-worth, to say, Khuthazo, you are valuable. God took his time to create me. And the reason why I'm still alive today is because God still wants me to add value to other people. My job is not my definition of being worth it. My job or my qualification is not a definition to say I am valuable. I am still valuable because somebody had to die on the cross for me to be here, to be alive today. To be alive today, somebody had to die. Jesus' blood, which is priceless, had to shed on the cross so that I can be alive. And I now take material things that you acquire in this world, and I want to put value on them, to say I'm valuable because I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a what at work, or I have a job, or I'm qualified as a what. None of those things give me value, and none of those things take away my value. Without them, I am still Khuthazo, who God created, who God chose. And with my story is so deep because the reason why I'm Khuthazo, which means comfort, I'm a rainbow baby. My mom lost a baby before me. So God made sure that I come here and I comfort my mother. And I always say to God, I'm like, am I that special that unfortunately you have to take somebody for me to be here? Because I always tell my mom, like, if it wasn't for the death or of my late sister that I've never met, may her soul rest in peace, and she was still an infant. So I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here because the time frame would too close. So to me, I'm like, God, there's a reason that you wanted me to be here. There's a reason why you wanted me to be here in this generation. And now I want to put all the external things. If people are liking my things, if people are commenting nicely, if people are validating me, if my qualification is so and so, if my job is this, now I want to put value on that. To be honest, when I started thinking about it, or when I started thinking about it, I felt like I was insulting God. That's my story. I felt like, God, I'm insulting you, and I've insulted you for so long because I thought all these external things, the car that I drive, where I stay, all these things that I've achieved in this world give me value. And they do not. And the unfortunate part is that they can also be taken away from you. Whether I had lost my job because I resigned, anything could have happened to my job. Anything. So does it mean that now I'm worthless because I don't have that anymore? Now I'm worthless because I don't have a title that I'm going to tell somebody about, to say I'm a sales team leader at so and so. So guys, those are the things that I've learned, and I'm so grateful that God showed me my pride. God showed me my ego because I didn't realize that, and God showed me that there were times when I would look down to people who didn't have the things that I did. And the thing is, when you're busy or when you're in that space, you don't realize that you're doing that. God was like, remember that person that you did 1, 2, 3? Remember this, remember how you would react when somebody is saying this, because I was so prideful. I was not humble. Not that I was not humble 100%, but there were certain areas of my life that I was not humble. And God took me back. It's like, be humble. Be humble. Don't have an ego. And don't define yourself with external things. So those are the most important 2 things that I've learned. And those were the 2 things that gave birth to a lot of things that I'm doing now. To the way I talk to people. To the way I now think out of the box and start to be creative and starting new things without boxing myself and say, but I'm educated, I have this qualification, I have this and that, because now I know how to use my qualification. Now I know how to use this education that I've been talking about, because education is just a tool. If you need to be a police, education helps you to know what police do. If you're a lawyer, doing your LLB helps you to know what a lawyer should do. It does not define you. It does not give you some sort of a value or make you be worth it, so that when those things are not there, now you feel like you're worthless. Those things are just tools to help us to do the things that we do, whether in business, whether in a job, but they just help us to do the things that we do. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm so grateful for this year. I mean the whole gap year that I had, not as in like 2022. And I just wanted to share that, to say, guys, sometimes taking time aside and just rethinking and taking time to refresh and relearn. Sometimes I had to learn about myself, and I know, not that I knew. Okay, why am I saying things before the other video comes? Because yes, there are great news, but I know where God is taking. That's why I told you last week or in one of my videos to say I felt like it was a bridge, and it was a bridge. I knew that God was preparing my mindset, my attitude. God was just preparing me holistically, my spiritual life, because where I am going, it does not need somebody who's ego. The higher level that God is taking me to does not need somebody who's not humble, who does not have humility, somebody who does not know herself, where she thinks that whatever that people say defines her. So where I'm going, it needs somebody who knows herself, and the doors of opportunities that are opening, they need me to walk through them as myself, not being afraid to embrace who I am, and not being afraid to go all out and do what I need to do to get where I need to get. So I'm very thankful for that. If it wasn't for this year, or it wasn't for the gap year, I wouldn't be saying all those things. Sometimes I even cry, but tears of joy, to think of the growth that I have developed in this past year. I think back, I'm like, if it wasn't Kuti, it's a situation where I would have reacted as the old Kuti. Yeah, I would go like, if it was the old Kuti, I would have shouted, or I would have started doubting myself, or I would have started questioning if am I worth it because so and so didn't approve. I would have started things. So I'm just grateful to say, God, thank you. As much as the first few weeks it was so hard to transition, but thank you for showing me to me. Good, this year I had to face myself face to face. It was me and God and me. So there was no way, there was nothing distracting me. There was no job, because sometimes you get so busy at work, you don't even think about yourself. So I had to face myself, and I didn't like a lot of things that I saw, that I didn't even realize, that I didn't even know. So those are the things. So for me, resigning helped me to realize my self-worth, and to learn about myself, basically just to get myself back. Because in the midst of everything, in the midst of going to school, in the midst of all my career life, I actually lost myself. And there were times that if I spent a lot of time with somebody, I would imitate them, not realizing how they speak. Now I want to speak like that. If I sit with a quiet person, I would want to be quiet, because I felt being quiet, it gives me some sort of a value. If I'm with somebody who talks too much, I would want to talk too much. So in the midst of everything, I lost who I was. I didn't even know who Kuti was anymore. Am I loud? Am I quiet? Do I like this or don't I like this? So I was just all over the place. So this year gave me clarity to say, this is who you are. Embrace who you are. You love being at home. You love making your home to, as a ministry. To me, my home is my ministry. Yes, my job. And I also, one great thing, I also realized that my job is not my purpose. I think I used to confuse that. I felt like, oh my goodness, my job is supposed to be my purpose. Not everybody. Other people are so blessed that their job becomes their paper, or their purpose becomes their job. But in my case, it's not like that. My job is my job. Now I separate the two. My job is my job. I'm not supposed to feel 100% purposeful in my job, because in elements definitely I will still be purposeful, but I'm not supposed to feel 100% purposeful, because that's just my job to get my income. But I have my own purpose. Now I know that this is a job, this is the purpose. I know how to separate the two, and I don't mix up the two anymore, and then it makes me feel like I'm not doing anything, I'm not with it. God, why am I just running around the same circle? Because I was confusing my job as my purpose. That's not my purpose. The greatest thing that God did during my gap year is to confirm my calling, because I didn't know, what am I? Do I preach? Am I an evangelist? What do I do? But God confirmed that you are an encourager. I encourage, whether I'm encouraging you in finance, whether I'm encouraging you in the word of God, in hope, or in anything. But my calling, it's being an encourager. So I know my purpose, that in whatever that I do, I need to also encourage, because that's my purpose. And now when somebody says, hey, you are a pastor, I can quickly say, no, I'm not a pastor, I'm an encourager. I can fully say it, because even if it's not as popular like being a pastor or being called to those ministries, but I now embrace who I am. I embrace being an encourager. I just embrace talking to people. I embrace learning about the things that God wants me to learn. I embrace doing things that God wants me to do without having people validate it. So yeah, before I repeat the same thing. So these are the two important things that I've learned to say. I am worth it without my job. My value, it's not in my job. So it took out all the ego, all the pride, and now I am very humble. I understand people's situations, and I just let people be. And it made me to understand that, guys, everybody, they don't have to do things the same way. Just do what God told you to do. This formula that we are following in this world, it's a formula that was created by the world. That's why it's very important as Christians, like it says in Romans, to say, renew your mind. Do not follow the norms of this world, because the norms of this world will tell you that you need to follow stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when things don't go according to those stages, you now feel depressed, because it's the standards of this world, they're so highly impossible, and they do not work for everyone. So allow God to direct you towards the journey, or your own destiny, your own purpose, because my journey cannot be yours. You can go and resign tomorrow and not get the same things that I got, because this is my journey. Maybe your journey does not even need you to resign. Maybe your job is your purpose, or maybe your job is not distracting you as it distracted me. Maybe your job is not making you to lose yourself as it has made me throughout the years. So just allow God to speak into your life, show you the pathway to your journey. There is a verse in Psalms that says God is going to direct you to the right pathway to your life. I will share it. So let's just allow God to lead us. He knows us more than we know ourselves. He knows us. If you could have told me 5 years ago that my life is going to turn out the way it is, I was not gonna believe it. I was not gonna believe it. But it turned out the way that God wanted it to turn out, and I'm grateful that even if I am not where I want to be personally, I wouldn't choose to be where I am. If it wasn't God and everything, I wouldn't choose where I want to be. But I'm very grateful each and every day to say, God, I am grateful I am in your will. The fact that I'm in your will, I know I have your covering. So being in God's will sometimes is not easy, but it's very fulfilling and it's very peaceful. So I'm just grateful that I stopped being the person of planning plan A, plan B, plan B. I only have plan God now. I always tell people, guys, I don't have plan Bs. I only have plan God. Wherever God wants to take me, I just say, God, take me, because fighting with God does not help. Trying to be God of my life does not help. It only brings distress, and that's where this enemy wants me to be. or wants us to be. The enemy wants us to feel distressed, because where there's distress, there's no joy, there's no happiness, there's no peace. It's chaos, confusion, there's no hope. So the devil always wants us to be distressed, and he will bring things to distress us. So I don't stress anymore. I'm like, God, this is, take the wheel. Take the wheel. You brought this in my life. Deal with it. This is not my portion to deal with. I cannot deal with this. This is not me. Just do what you need to do in this situation. So thank you for getting this far on the video. And if you haven't subscribed, why not? Please subscribe if you like the content that you get here. And the other thing is that I am gonna be changing a little bit of the things that I put in here. I'm gonna start putting other things, and I'm gonna start uploading, several days in a week. So please do tune in and subscribe, share, like, comment, and please have a beautiful Monday, a blessed Monday, and stay positive and stay in God's will for your life. Bye.